So, hi everybody. Welcome to one of what I think of as the great events in our calendar year here at Swarthmore, the induction into the Garnet Hall of Fame. I'm Tom Spock, class of '78, former soccer player and current chair of the Board of Managers. I'd like to start, of course, by being the first to congratulate this year's class of inductees. All of you, congratulations. This has become a very important tradition in my mind at Swarthmore. I'd like to welcome all of your friends and family who have traveled here to campus to join you. I'd like to welcome my great friend and our leader, Val Smith, over here. You'll be hearing from President Smith in a little bit. I am very gratified, as always, by the importance I know she places on our athletic program here. I want to thank personally Adam Hertz for once again putting me ahead of him in the speakers faculty. Do not follow Adam to the podium. I'm of course glad to have the coaches here, students, faculty, and alum, and staff and alums, and all the community members who have come out to support this program, which, as I keep saying, is very important. And I'd like a special welcome, because I know there's at least a few of you here, to the former inductees, the former classes of our Hall of Fame. So I'd like to give them a round of applause, because we haven't forgotten you. So this year we have a very, very deserving class, of course, and I don't like to single out anyone more than another, but I do want to point out that my good friend and immediate predecessor as board chair, Gil Kemp, is among the class of inductees this year. And you can clap for Gil. I am very, very proud of Gil, and I'm very happy to say that he is the first chair of the Board of Managers to be so honored. I did not say only, I said the first chair of the Board of Managers. Meanwhile, I know a lot of my teammates on the 1974 men's soccer D3 finalist team are checking their watches and hoping that we have a lovely evening tonight. All kidding aside, you will hear later that Gil earned everything he's getting tonight on the track. I'd just like to make a couple more observations before we get started. Last month at our quarterly board weekend, we were lucky enough to be joined by the varsity coaches for dinner. And it was a really fun evening. We had a great discussion. And at our table, one question I asked the coaches I was sitting with was, if you could change one thing, if one thing were different about how Swarthmore athletics were run, what would that one thing be? And I heard a couple of different answers. So one answer was, the more recruits we can shepherd through our admissions process, the better, because you can be the greatest coach in the world, and there's no replacement for a couple of blue chip athletes to help out the old one-loss record. So we know that that's a policy issue that we discuss all the time. The second one, of course, I think any coaches in this room will probably agree with this one, is, in a word, facilities. This is a great building, the Matchbox. It's been a huge success on campus, but as any of you who spend time here know, most of our athletic facilities are woefully outdated. And so, of course, a little light bulb went off over my head, and I thought, wow, the Hall of Fame banquet would be a great time to mention that we are in the middle of our capital campaign, chaired by one you should talk to, Mr. Gil Kemp. Changing lives, changing the world, and to the extent that you support this program, I think giving generously to it would be a really great way to help out the college. If you believe, as I do, that physical fitness and the lessons of competition are an enormous contributor to a healthier and happier life, then this is a really good way to act on that. I, for one, was very happy this year to be able to contribute to establishing an endowment for the men's soccer program, which is going strong. It's only one of many ways in which all of us can help. But I'm not here just to talk about that. Beyond financial support, of course, I hope you'll demonstrate your commitment by supporting our athletic program by attendance, by keeping up with our teams and our athletes, and I know how much the coaches and players will all appreciate all of your thought. So that's it for me. As I said, you'll be hearing from Val later and Adam, and then, of course, the reason we're here for our inductees. Congratulations once again to all of you, and let's enjoy our dinner.
I am delighted to see you all here and to be with you tonight. With today's games, the pep rally tonight, more games and a tailgate tomorrow, Swarthmore's student athletes and alumni athletes are playing a major role in this year's Garnet weekend. In this year's Hall of Fame class, we recognize a tennis player from the class of 1984, a soccer and lacrosse player from the class of 1995, a runner from the class of 1972, a basketball player from the class of 2004, and a beloved athletic trainer. A committee of administrators, coaches, and alumni selected this year's inductees from a pool of 200 nominees on the basis of their impact on Swarthmore athletics and on the college itself. Please join me in thanking the members of this committee for all the hard work they put into the selection process. Now, here at Swarthmore, we often talk about the importance of beyond the classroom learning. People usually understand that phrase to refer to internships or studying abroad, and that's often what we mean. But athletics are an important type of beyond the classroom learning as well. Our student athletes develop skills like teamwork, resilience, self-discipline, and empathy. And these skills are transferable from the field, track, pool, or court to the classroom, lab, and residence hall. In other words, athletics are an essential part of Swarthmore's liberal arts experience. And as our honorees speak with us this evening, I suspect that they will tell us how being a scholar athlete here at Swarthmore served them well in their lives and careers afterward. I'm also pleased that tonight we are inducting a former member of the athletics staff. Those who coach, mentor, train, and help keep our student athletes healthy are essential to the success of the athletics program and to all who participate in it, and it's important that we honor them. So please join me once again in congratulating all of our honorees, and I thank you all for being here tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you, President Smith, for those words and for your continued support of athletics and the wellness initiatives on campus. And thank you all for being here tonight. Special occasion as we welcome our sixth class to the Garnet Athletics Hall of Fame. Like Tom, I would like to welcome the current members of the Athletics Hall of Fame, but unlike Tom, I'd like to ask you all to please stand up and give a wave and be recognized. You Hall of Famers. I'm also struck as I look around the room by who else is here tonight. You heard from our president and our board chair, but there is also our provost, the dean, our vice presidents, members of the faculty and the staff, students, alumni, family, friends of the inductees, and members of the community here joining us tonight as well. It's a group of people from all walks of life, so diverse in background, interest, profession, pursuits, all gathering here tonight in this single space. That is the embodiment of sport. It's the international common thread that brings people with such varied backgrounds, interests, and beliefs together. It never ceases to amaze me that sport can engage such a cross-section of people, uniting them and fostering a sense of pride and accomplishment not found in any other realm. In the 139 years that Swarthmore athletes have competed, they've won conference championships, national championships. They've garnered All-American status, earned the highest levels of academic recognition, and they've gone on to professional careers and brought distinction to our college community. As we, the selection committee, have gone through this process of reviewing nominations over the past year, there's one thing that's confirmed time and time again, and that's that Swarthmore is one exceptional place with a history of athletics that rivals the best. The stories we read are fantastic, and the achievements so impressive that the committee has a great deal of difficulty choosing each class. But choose they do, and after much consideration and deliberation, and finally unanimous consensus, I'm pleased to introduce to you the Garnet Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2017.
So settle in here. I've been waiting for an occasion like this for a very long time. It was a cold night on Monday, January 27th, 1962, when Marion H. Brown gave birth to a square-headed boy. Okay, no, I'm not going that direction. I'm just kidding. First, if it were not for tennis, I probably would never have gotten into Swarthmore in the first place. But thanks to Mike Mullen pulling hard for me in admissions, and likely the support of the Dean of Admissions, Bob Barr, our team's greatest fan, I did get in. And Swarthmore, particularly tennis-wise, was a absolute perfect fit for me. Tennis at Swarthmore taught me the value of sometimes being a big fish in a little pond. When I described to people the level of the Swarthmore tennis in my era to people, I would say we were always top 5 in the country in Division III, but yes, there's a huge difference between Division III and Division I, and here's how. In my day, the winner of the Division III national tournament got to play in the Division I tournament in Athens, Georgia. And if you would ask the Division I player what was the best possible draw to get first round, it was the Division III champion. So you could get a sense of the difference. I am positive that I never would have become the player that I did if I attended like a mid-level Division I school where I was scrapping and clawing to make the team. But at SWAT, I was perfectly challenged by my teammates, by my coach, the competition, and the opportunity to compete at a national level year in and year out. At age 22, in May 1984, the NCAA tournament, my senior year, I was playing the best tennis of my life. And of course, the good news is I was competing and winning at an elite level, at a level I never would have expected. The bad news is, of course, that I'm going downhill ever since. So I was asked to reflect on the meaning of tennis in my life, and I warn you, I'm a psychologist. So when I'm asked to kind of reflect on things, I take it seriously. So here's what I really want to talk about. When I think about the influence that tennis has had on the course of my life and who I am today, as they say, it's complicated. Clearly, athletics and Swarthmore has served me well, as the president said, but not in ways that you might typically think. I have a complicated relationship with tennis. I was and am I'm very good at tennis. I love competition. I love exercise, and I really, really like to win. Really. But the tennis world has been one in which it's been difficult for me to feel truly whole and authentic. And while this has been a struggle and painful at times in my life, it represents what I think is a critically important struggle that has made me who I am today. So are you getting a sense that I'm a psychologist here? Yes, it's true. Much therapy to prove it, my own therapy. But let me explain. Although I was a jock, it was hard often to reconcile the hyper-masculine expectations of jockdom with some very important parts of myself that didn't fit sort of the constraining man box. The parts of me that sought out many female friends, that wanted to connect with guys about more than sports and conquests, that often identified as much with my female sides as my male sides, that was more interested in the world of deep relationships than getting wasted and doing chest bumps. So it often felt to me that although I admit I took myself much too seriously, that there was little room in the jock world for a guy like me and little room in the other worlds I inhabited for a jock. So I often felt divided, hiding these two important parts of me, feeling there were few places I felt truly, truly whole. I was the insufferable killjoy guy who never laughed when the post-victory van ride home included a fair share of catcalling. You probably remember that, David. So I was pretty insufferable. But I was grateful, very grateful, that Swarthmore offered many opportunities for me to explore these other non-jock parts of myself. From a men's issues group I was a part of, to getting involved as a man in rape prevention activism, to taking topics in human sexuality course. I'm sure these are commonplace today, but not so much in the early 1980s. I think all of us struggle to weave multiple group identities, whether they be about gender, race, class, sexual orientation, into who we are, and I credit tennis for challenging me to own all parts of myself in an authentic whole. The best symbol of this now for me is my tennis-playing warrior and dear friend David Arnold. David and I met at Amherst College courts near where we live in May 1999. I remember because our oldest kids were both 18. And David, who played at Dartmouth, and I have been competing fiercely on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 10 pretty much ever since us meeting 18 years ago. And neither of us like to lose. About 10 years ago, we started continuing a match from wherever we started. Like if we stopped at 5-all and had to go to work, we would start the next time at 5-all. So it gave lots more opportunity for pressure situations and times that we had to compete. And then as soon as we were done, we connected as dear friends, sharing the simple triumphs of our work as psychologists, our kids, and our normal everyday lives, but also allowing for vulnerability about our times of sorrow and disappointment. And I consider David one of my closest friends, a friendship with its roots in tennis, but one I'm grateful to say I can truly bring all parts of myself to it. So in the second way that I have a complicated relationship to tennis has to do with privilege, a somewhat overused word these days. I was born into a wealthy family. I learned to play tennis at the country club, traveled to tournaments in the summer with my mom, rather than worked, and benefited from all the advantages my wealth brought. But I never was comfortable with the rich, pretty boy, entitled stereotype of tennis players. Even at 13 or 14, there was this kid, Jerry Lowe, and Jerry was my rival in junior tennis, and he was known for his snazzy outfits, the socks matched the wristbands, and all that thing. And for me, I came out in my raggedy T-shirts and literally headbands that was ripped from towels and bed sheets. again, I felt divided. And at Swarthmore, when I was drawn to do rape prevention activism, people in that world, had little interest in my tennis accomplishments, and at least in my perception, were wary and distrustful of my intentions. And at the same time, there was not much room to talk about the impact of rape culture on the long van rides with my teammates. So again, my strong identity as an athlete and tennis player challenged me to figure out how to own that part of myself alongside my interest in social justice, and how to meld these two sides without banishing one of them, depending on what I was doing. And Swarthmore offered me the canvas upon which to engage in that struggle. So the tennis accomplishment of which I am most proud, I'm almost finished, is winning the Arthur Ashe Award, because who better exemplified combining athletic success with changing the world than Arthur Ashe? Rumor had it that the Arthur Ashe Award winners were honored by Arthur Ashe himself at the U.S. Open, but they apparently stopped this tradition the year before I won the award. That still makes me sad to this day. But today I play tennis in the morning and go back to my desk and do my work on behalf of survivors of childhood trauma, people who have suffered some of the most horrific things that humans can do to each other. So I both love tennis and love the mission of my professional career, and they don't feel in conflict at all. For that, I feel truly blessed. So I want to thank Swarthmore for fostering the athlete, scholar, social activist of the world. Thanks to the athletic department. Thanks to Mike Mullen, who helped me to excel on the court. And thanks to my loving family, who's here with me today to celebrate this honor. And thank you to you all.
Sports at Swarthmore was a lifeline for me. As we all know, the academic rigor at Swarthmore can be pretty intense, and I found balance and a loving environment with my teammates at Swarthmore. I also want to thank Julie Noyes and her father, who taught me the game of lacrosse. I lived with Julie. She was my roommate. And Jim Noyes was a coach at the time here at Swarthmore for the men's lacrosse team. He taught me some secret moves that can transfer from the men's game to the women's game. So I found that really valuable. And what better way to learn a new sport like lacrosse than to live with Julie, defend Julie, and have to eat dinner with Julie? Everything we did together, and so that bond was really special. I also want to thank Karen Borby. She was the first mentor here at Swarthmore for me. I started my first days here at Swarthmore, my freshman year, preseason soccer with Karen. She taught me the sport of lacrosse along with Julie and Jim. I'm asking her how the heck she taught me, because I'm trying to teach my daughter now to play lacrosse. So I'm going to come down to Swarthmore for some tutorials on that. But I really, really appreciate that guidance that you gave me and helped me transition from a high school student to this whole new environment, and really shepherded me through the whole 4 years that I was here, Karen. Thank you so much. The sisterhood that I found on the teams was also invaluable to me, and it continues to this day. My best friends in life, my true sisters are from these teams that I played with here at Swarthmore. We vacation together now. We are raising our children together. We call each other for advice. So I have to say that, Swarthmore is so special to me in so many ways. I mean, it introduced me to my husband, for goodness sake. But I have to say that one of the most dear qualities of Swarthmore for me was the people that it brought into my life, especially my best friends in life and my companions and people who helped me through the highest highs and the lowest lows. So I can't say enough about being a student athlete here and seeing all the amazing things that my colleagues from the teams have done throughout their careers and their lives. It's just been a special honor to be a part of all these people's lives. So I thank Swarthmore. I thank it from the bottom of my heart. I thank all of you for being here and listening to this connection that I have and this special place in my heart I have for this school and these people. And so with that, I have to say, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for having me here tonight.
When I started running in 1965, the stereotype was the loneliness of the long-distance runner. But it really wasn't true then or now. Your teammates, Dave Johnson is one here tonight. Coaches, freshman year in cross-country, Swarthmore alum Ed Ayers, his successor Joe Stefanowicz. Teammates, this is not an individual sport. I think I was so blessed to come here, and thinking about tonight, I reflected on my older brother, who at prep school 3 years before me was a better runner. He made, I think, an unfortunate decision to go to Harvard, where he was one in the class of 1969 of 6 freshmen that had broken 4:30 for the mile. Pretty good time. But if Sandy were here tonight, I think he would tell you that one of the regrets of his life is that he stopped running, in his case, fall of his sophomore year, and none of those 6 made it to graduation as runners. By contrast, I had a chance to blossom here, and running was an integral part of my life here and continued for many years after. And I still am, as friends would say, somewhat obsessed with exercise. But I think the rewards of it are pretty manifold. And I'm actually going to impose on you and make a little assignment and ask that in the next 24 hours, you take no more than 5 minutes, but reflect on and make brief notes of 10 peak moments in your life. Maybe the birth of a child, it may be your graduation from Swarthmore or another institution. Don't overthink it, but just make brief notes. And if you're like me and you do this exercise, and I urge you to do it in the next 24 hours, if you have an athletic background, I think you will surprise yourself at how many of your peak moments are athletic. My point is that coming to a place like Swarthmore allows one to capture more of these peak moments. And I think we all have a chance when we're talking with high school juniors or seniors, urge them to come to a Swarthmore where they have the chance, whether it's in athletics or other extracurricular activities, to explore and accomplish things that at a bigger school, they're not going to have the chance. And frankly, 90% of our graduates these days are going on to professional or graduate school, so that's the opportunity for them to experience the bigger institution. Urge them, whether it's a niece, a nephew, your own child, or a friend of a friend, ask them to think of small liberal arts college and the opportunities it has to expand your life, make a difference in your life that you don't always have at the Harvards of the world. Thank you again for making this an absolutely delightful evening for me and making Swarthmore what a wonderful institution it is. Thanks.
When I think back to all the games and practices my parents drove me, my brother, sister, and me to over the years, I don't know how they did it. And they even managed to see many of my college games, even though the trip from Boston to Philly is not a short ride. Now with 3 children of my own, I can definitely appreciate how hard they worked for us to play the sports that we loved. So thank you, Mom, for that. It feels like just yesterday that I was playing basketball here at Swarthmore, and I can't believe it was 13 years ago. Looking back, I'm very grateful for the opportunity I had to play here. It was such a privilege to be here surrounded by such wonderful teammates and classmates. And I think being a part of such a diverse and inclusive community at such a young age really shaped the way that I look at the world today. Attending Swarthmore also helped me to develop a deep sense of social justice that I might not have gotten somewhere else. So I'm very appreciative of that. Very few of us will become professional athletes, but we can use the values that we've learned through sports in our own careers. I know that the skills that I learned in being part of the Swarthmore women's basketball team have helped me in my career as a high school special education math teacher. And I hope I can impart the same values of teamwork, dedication, perseverance, hard work, and time management onto the high school students that I teach and onto my own 3 children, whether they decide to play sports or participate in spelling bees. But judging from how much they seem to enjoy throwing or kicking a ball around in the backyard, I wouldn't be surprised to find myself driving them to practices in the very near future. But I'm honored to be inducted into the Garnet Hall of Fame and thankful to be here tonight with all of you. Thank you very much.
I worked with Doug Weiss for over 25 years. I knew Doug to be a kind, patient professional in the field of intercollegiate athletics, sport. Doug was a pioneer in the field of sports medicine. He took the practice of sports medicine from rub-downs and adhesive tape to the specialized science of the prevention and treatment of sports-related injury. Doug treated, as Adam stated, all students, from the intercollegiate athlete to recreational players. He was there for everybody. He treated faculty, staff, and often individuals from the Swarthmore community. The NCAA frowned upon some of that. And there was a time when I thought I might need to go into the training room and so advise Doug that, hey, Doug, you can't be treating all these people. You can't be doing this. And then I usually think about things for a while before I make a serious decision. So I went out and I walked around a little bit and I came back and here was a gentleman sitting on Doug's table with his feet barely touching the floor. Al Blue was on Doug's table. And I said, as Dougie used to call me, he'd call me Bobby. He said, Bobby, I said to myself, Bobby, we'll leave that one alone. And we did. Our coaches depended heavily on Doug's input in the conditioning of their teams, on and off the field. He got involved in things like nutrition, healthy living, all kinds of fitness, and he was very innovative in the resistance exercise programs. One of the early innovators. And I was always interested in listening to Doug talk about rest. We always knew how to do enough work, but we did not have a good handle on rest. And Doug was good with that. And I think that was one of his real deep secrets. Doug's programs of sports medicine was the model for our conference. People were always calling, what do you all do about this? How does your sports medicine program work? I said, well, call Doug. He said, well, we're trying to get him down to do a clinic or a seminar or something. We just can't get him. I said, the man is busy. Doug's sports medicine program was and still is in sync with the mission of this great college. And how appropriate it is that this great college now embraces Doug Weiss into its history as a member of the Swarthmore College Athletic Hall of Fame. Wow. What an honor for Doug, and what an opportunity for this wonderful school. So once again, Gail, Mrs. Weiss, thank you for sharing Doug with us. And I know that Doug would want to share this honor with you. Thank you.